All right, we'll go ahead and call this special meeting to order. Welcome to the Historic Preservation Review Board. This is a citizen board appointed by the Town Council to interpret and uphold the Historic Preservation Ordinance that protects the historic district. Our aim on the board is to provide a positive bridge between property owners of the district and the design review process. So we welcome you to today's meeting, and we appreciate your interest, and your comments are important to us. So when your project is selected, the staff will give us a short overview of your project, and then we'll ask you to come forward and give us any further comments you'd like to make. And if you would, introduce yourself and give us your address, so we'll have that for the record. Okay, roll call.
Mr. Boyd? Here. Mr. Owens? Mrs. Hartshorn?
Here.
Mrs. White?
Here.
And Mr. Giesler?
Here. Okay, first we have 222 Court Street, Jimmy Caldwell. This is for a deck, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they'll give us, is somebody going to give us a, okay. If you just have a seat right there, and then we'll be right with you, that's fine. Yes, that's all right, no problem. We called you, that's great.
So is the pictures coming up right there? Okay, so Jimmy Caldwell, applicant and owner, has requested approval of a certificate of appropriateness to construct a deck located at the rear of the structure. The property is located on 222 Court Street, and the property is within the Old Historic District, Sub-District 7. Some background. Currently, there is an existing small wooden deck with wooden stairs located at the rear of the structure, and access to the site will be from Court Street. Staff findings: the proposed deck will be an extension/replacement of the existing wooden deck located at the rear of the structure. The deck will be expanded to run from the back door to the southeast corner of the structure. The placement of the stairs will not be changed, however, some treads may be replaced if beyond repair. The proposed deck will be constructed of primarily treated wood with bolts and anchors. The decking will be stained brown, and the railing for the proposed deck will be wooden and painted white. The overall dimensions of the proposed deck are 21 feet long by 12 feet wide and 8 feet tall from the ground to the deck. From the deck to the top of the railing will measure 43 inches tall. As with the existing deck, the proposed deck will be open underneath, supported by wooden square posts stained brown. The proposed deck and railing will match another existing porch on the north elevation in design. The only difference between the two would be the proposed deck will not have a roof. And here you can see the sketch, the drawing of the proposed deck with the utilities underneath. It's going to be open, and it's just expanding. And also in your packet, you can see the existing deck and how the deck will mirror the same one on the north side of the structure. So it'll be the same material, same paint scheme. It will just be the expansion in the back.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
Yeah. So in looking at this, so we're saying that this is on the north side. This is going into the
I provided that, and should
the
show
side
the color
doors.
scheme
So this is what it'll look like.
and design.
Right.
Without a top wall.
Sir, could you come up and just...
Yes. That's right.
Come up, don't come up, come up.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, you're good, you're good, you're good.
you're good.
Yeah, so the one on the bottom, it will follow the same design and color scheme as that right
Oh,
there.
okay, right. And so when you were saying stained, you meant the porch floor is going to be
The
stained.
porch floor, I think you said the posts were stained, those will be painted white.
That's what I thought
Yeah,
I heard.
okay,
too.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Right,
It'll
okay.
follow the same
Right.
color scheme as
So
that right
that's
there.
the point. It's going to look just like that.
Do you have a name of the paint or the stain, just so we can put it in our records of the actual color?
I do not. But Mike Owens does, he's the one who
Okay.
painted the, I bought the place from him.
Okay. We just like to have that on file.
So it's gonna be
I
matching,
can
it's gonna be
get
the
that,
exact
but
same
it's gonna be
color.
matching
Yeah.
exactly to that.
Oh, okay.
I just don't
Okay.
have the name of that. The white is just a standard classic white. standard paint.
That was my home.
Was it really?
Yes, for 5 years, from 78 to 83, I guess it was. Yes,
I didn't know you lived.
I did.
Yeah.
And I think you need that.
And I think Matt Smith
He did.
lived there, didn't
Yeah.
he? He stopped one day when he was
He
coming
did.
by. and
He
said-
lived there way before we did.
Yeah,
Well, probably not way before we did. We may have bought it from his mother.
yeah.
Wow.
You lived across the street then, I guess, before they,
Yes.
before Mike and Barbara moved.
Yes, we
Yeah.
lived on the, when it was on the other side of the street.
Yeah.
That's right. It's a fine home.
We really like it.
All right, are there any further questions or comments? If not, is there a motion on the application?
I move we accept the application as presented.
I'll
So-
second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Owens is absent. Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
All right?
And Mr. Geisler.
Aye.
It certainly does just go right along with all of our guidelines, and it's in the rear of the house, and matches what's there. Very appropriate.
All right, thank you.
Is there a timeline on completion?
A year.
Okay, I'll be fine. We're just getting into winter, I don't like,
Yeah,
depending on the weather, might
Right.
be spring. Okay.
thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Okay, next is Peddling Jacks, 152 East Main Street.
Yes, so Derek Jones, applicant and owner, has requested approval of a certificate of appropriateness for a sign. The proposed signage will be hanging from the underside of the porch. The proposed sign was previously approved on February 16th, 2022 for 114 North Court Street, but it will be moving to the property located at 152 East Main Street, the Trigg Building. And the property is within the Olden Historic District, Sub-District 3. So some background, currently there is no existing sign located in the proposed location at 152 East Main Street. A former business had a wall sign mounted to the face of the structure and a sign attached to a porch column. The Greenway Trigg Building had a freestanding sign structure where all the tenant signs were located. However, the tenant sign structure has been removed as renovations have been taken place, and there are no plans to reinstall it. So, staff findings, the applicant is proposing to move their previously approved hanging sign from 114 North Court Street to 152 East Main Street. The proposed sign will hang from the underside of the porch in the second bay from the east side of the structure between two ornate porch columns using small eye screws. The installation is similar, if not exact, to how the Sonder sign was installed that you saw previously, maybe a month or two ago. The previously approved sign was a synthetic wood with black design and lettering. Measurements for the sign are 18 inches by 24 inches, equaling 3 square feet. No lighting was provided, so staff has made the determination that no lighting is being requested.
Okay, great, thank you. Hello.
This is the actual sign.
Oh, okay. Well, that helps. And that's the actual sign we approved before, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments?
You been by yet?
No, I was at the old place, but I've not been to the new one yet.
Yeah, I missed the coffee at the other place, but this is a lot better location for us. It's gonna be a lot better.
Great. All right, is there a motion?
I move we approve the application as presented.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Boyd?
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
And Mr. Geisler.
Aye. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Okay. All right, so now I believe we have various matters of discussion. The first is a discussion on outdoor lighting. This issue came up with regard to that same building, and there's some other locations in town that have outdoor lighting. I guess we don't, that's just not currently addressed in our guidelines.
Yeah, I'll just, I kind of put a little summary sheet here so we could get some answers tonight, but under the temporary lighting, we don't have anything that really addresses this type of outdoor lighting in the historic district. Now, you know, whether or not, I kind of put a picture, this is from Alexandria, I mean, I think that it can be done very tastefully and can make a lot of sense. I know they have the same type of lighting on top of the Summers building, which I'm not sure if that was ever approved with the design, but it's up there.
I don't think it was.
And really is honestly is part of pretty much every one of their Instagram photos. So we have a couple of places. I think the real question is there, you know, interest in allowing it? Is there interest in prohibiting it? And just kind of curious what you all think.
I think that's it's a good point to address because, yeah, those lights are up there and they're not temporary at the Summers building.
No.
So I don't know how that gets addressed, but I did know that these, my objection with these is that they're just not done very well. They're messy looking. So I wanted to address this just going forward. Can we have any kind of regulation on how, what's the definition of temporary? Because we do that with a temporary sign.
Mhm.
Or do we even have anything to say about lighting?
You all can say what you'd like. So I know we kind of brought this up last time. Page, let's see, lighting for buildings is on page 7 of your design guide. Lighting for porches and exterior walls is on page 8. And then we have something called lighting within landscaping, which says fixtures illuminating landscaping should be recessed at ground level and hidden from public view. A series of small fixtures lining a walkway or driveway is not recommended. That's kind of the only talk of where, you know, lighting comes into play, like in the front of a structure. All the rest of them are really focused on being part of the building. So, of course, if you all would like, I mean, and we'll probably talk about this in a little bit, but, you know, we're hoping to rewrite these design guidelines in
Yeah.
the next year. And I think we could put some language in here and then have something like this come to you for a COA approval. Unless you were saying you wanted to prohibit all kinds of like party lights, string lights, and then that's just a very different, you know, discussion.
I don't have an objection to lighting. It's just, I guess everyone's got their Christmas lights up, and that's a temporary lighting, we don't address that, but,
Right.
but these, if they're gonna put them up, then is there any that way that we can say, can they be done professionally, or is that language allowed? I mean, or you can just stick them on a post like
I
that?
don't think professionally would be the,
Yeah,
you're just looking for order.
yeah, I mean, and they're,
And these are all going from one pole, so you've
Right.
got kind of a, they're not in any kind of
but
grid.
I don't wanna take away anyone's fun either, you know, like I think our downtown, it's nice to have a vibe, but I just guess it also needs to sort of comply with what we're going for as a look.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
that's just personal taste.
it's a tough issue. I tried to look at some other, I tried to find some regulations in other historic districts, and I really didn't find anything, but I didn't have a lot of time to look.
Yeah, I did as well.
Did you find anything?
Not really.
There are some down there next to, a couple doors down from Jack's, I don't think that's in the historic.
That's his house.
That's
Yeah.
his
Oh, is that his
Yeah,
house?
yeah.
Okay, but his are done really well, so.
But they're not temporary either.
Right, they've been
I
up.
think you make a point, a good point.
Of what the
defining
definition of
temporary.
temporary, yeah.
I mean, I think we're all in agreement that festive lights, so to speak, are probably very appropriate.
But
and
maybe
add
festive lights
to
that
it.
are either clear or, I mean, not festive colored lights, other than at holidays. I mean, I don't know, like, we have to look at all of that, I think.
And I mean, the other issue too is, you know, if our concern is that it detracts from the historic appearance of the historic district, then, you know, the lights in the cupola, the double cupola of the courthouse are much more disruptive even
Oh,
than
they're
these.
awful, but they're
And-
inside.
Right, but I mean, I don't know that that we can't, I don't know that we can't deal with that also. I mean,
Yeah.
they're seen from the outside. I just don't know.
Yeah.
It's
I have-
I
a lot
think
of
it's
people
tough issue-
talk to me
a
about
tough
that.
issue.
Pardon me?
I think
Yeah.
it's a tough issue.
I mean, I've had people ask, is there anything you guys can do about those courthouse lights? And I just said, that's not, I didn't think that was something we could address. because-
And then we've got to make this distinction between Christmas lights and these lights.
Yeah.
And, you know,
And Christmas lights, we definitely have, they have a pardon, so to speak.
Yes.
We do have that. I will say that this 21A, lighting for commercial buildings should be simple in design and may be either concealed or exposed. If concealed, uplighting is encouraged. If exposed, the fixtures would be appropriate to the style and
Okay.
period of the building. So there is some, I mean,
There's
we
some
could
order.
kind of bolster this language, I guess,
Mhm.
if you all thought that, you know, you want this kind of lighting, you want this festive, give it a downtown vibe, but you want them to come in for a COA, you definitely could add some language in here.
Well, I really think that 21 is talking about lamp posts and,
Mhm.
you know, formal lighting.
Right.
Not these kind
Not
of
those
fun,
kind of-
fun lights, fun lighting.
Party lights.
I think we just don't have anything yet.
Correct, you do not.
Right, but we could build off of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, we could.
What do you think, Byron?
Well, I think in the broad sense that we need to allow them. I think that they're a good thing. I think they add to the, they make it an interesting place to be. They're welcoming. They're very nice in the winter when it's so dark. And I think they add a lot to an area. But I think they can also be distracting and detrimental if they're not done well. And so that's the,
Well, this picture that you've brought here of Alexandria is a good example, as far as I'm concerned,
Yeah.
of these are probably considered by them to be permanent.
Mm-hmm.
And they consider them to be a part of the ambiance of what they're trying to do there in a permanent kind of way. In my opinion, they do that, you know, they're
Right.
nice and festive looking, but they're
They also-
nevertheless permanent.
They have big heaters hanging up there as well,
Yeah.
Yes.
which are a lot more visually
Yeah.
intrusive than the lighting to me.
So I think all of us are probably okay with the concept.
Yeah,
As
I
long
guess
as-
it's just the execution to me.
Yes.
Because even, and then across the street from this house is the, I don't know the name of that little thing she has with the,
gather in.
yeah, and there's a lot of lights just sort of thrown up there that are year-round as well, that are Christmas looking,
Yes.
but they're not,
I mean, I guess,
not installed professionally, I guess.
I mean, just to throw something out for discussion, you know, we could have a requirement that they must be white or clear lights, they can't be color, they have to be mounted on a perpendicular post, and that they have to run either parallel or perpendicular to the building that they're associated with. They can't be strange angles, and they have to be adhered to the top of the post, a part of the post. I mean, we could do, those are the
Right.
kinds of things that I
like
think,
that idea.
you know,
The perpendicular parallel is a little limiting because you might do a perfectly symmetrical cross,
gotcha.
but there's some way of wording that.
Right.
One thing that I don't think there's anything we can do about it, or there may not be, but one thing I did notice in one of the guidelines that I was looking at earlier today was, I don't know, I looked at Nantucket, I looked at Santa Barbara, California. Anyway, it was a concern about dark sky protection. And these lights have nothing that shields them from,
Light
so, I mean, that is a
pollution. It
concern,
is a concern, yeah.
but I don't know if it's anything,
I did.
I mean, I don't know how you would address it with this sort of lighting unless you put a little lampshade over it.
When we talked to Mark the other time when he was here, did he say they were like dusk to dawn or something, or they're on a timer, or they're?
I did see one place where outdoor festive lighting had to be turned off, could only be eliminated, could not be eliminated from like midnight till 7 a.m. or something.
Or 7 p.m. or something. I mean, you don't need them in the daytime. 5 p.m.
Well, in the daytime, they wanted to affect
Yeah,
dark sky, but I
right.
think the point was that at nighttime, in the middle of the night, I mean, there
Right.
was no need to have those things burning all night long.
Okay.
I did see that somewhere.
That's a good point.
Okay.
So how do we proceed with them?
Well, we can bring language back to you all, and you all can
Okay.
actually, I mean, we could go through like a small amendment, or we can wait to add it in. But as long as we know which direction you're interested in, then we can draft language.
So our guidelines have to be approved by town council, is that, or not?
I honestly am not 100% sure.
I mean, first of all, we just have guidelines, so I guess there isn't any reason why we couldn't,
Amend.
if we're in agreement as to what we should do with regard, I mean, until we actually get them incorporated into our guidelines, I guess we could proceed with whatever we wanted to do.
A policy.
Right.
Yeah, so we could basically create a policy. So this is where you're, like, these are enacted, is like, in general, under the terms of Article 8-4 of the Abington zoning ordinance, and then it lists that it says, without prior approval of the board and an issuance of a certificate of appropriateness. So this really, like you said, these are your guidelines, and your authority relies on the zoning ordinance. So
Right.
I think you could add
Yeah, I mean,
put an
they're
addition to
simply
this. Mhm.
But so we'd have to, but at some point, the zoning ordinance has to be amended to say you have to,
Yes.
that this, that's one of the things you have to have a certificate of appropriateness for.
Correct, correct.
Well,
So we would do that in our future larger.
Does that need to be a motion or just a suggestion?
I think it can just, as long as
Okay.
you tell us, we'll bring language the next.
Are you guys in agreement with that?
Yeah.
I think
And
so.
aren't we even thinking of having a workshop anyway for several issues? I mean, when Mike Pulis comes and,
This was kind of, you all wanted to brainstorm tonight.
uh-huh.
So
So
when
that-
he comes,
yeah.
we don't spend a lot of
Yeah.
time on the
Yeah.
minutia.
Yes, but I think we have several little small things, and as you say, if we're planning to amend the guidelines anyway.
Mhm.
just a
I think we
laundry
need to have a
list.
work session to where we sort of
Or is that
go
gonna
through
be-
and talk about all those changes, because we've got a
When we
big
do
list.
this,
I mean,
yeah.
we don't have a
I
list,
think
but we
so.
got a big list of things we talked about.
We do, that's my
Mhm.
point right there, is I think we've talked about several things, if we could maybe just get ourselves a bullet list together of what we've talked about, and then
Mhm.
just can we have a work session at one point?
Yeah, so it took us about 2 years to get through the zoning ordinance, so we can start having
It took us
meetings
2
all
years to
the
get through the
time.
last revision of these.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, I mean, I do
It's
think
not
it's gonna.
something you do in one
No.
workshop.
No,
No.
it's not, but you can give it a good start.
Yeah, and we can get a timeline and set up meetings and just, start
Yeah.
working it into your system,
Okay.
so.
We also have our preservation plan that we,
Yeah.
Yes.
that we work on too.
When is Mike coming? Is that
In
set?
2 weeks.
December.
Do we have a date for that?
Yeah, what is the next
I think,
HPRB
December
meeting?
7th?
December
To our
2nd.
regular meeting?
It's our regular meeting.
Yeah,
That's just
Like
a week.
next
That's just
week.
next
It's
week.
next week.
Yeah. Is, are we gonna try to go out with him afterwards, or?
So, yeah, I mean, if, we talked about that, basically, if you all would like to choose a location now, then when Nick puts together the advertisement, which I'm not
Today.
sure, has it gone out already?
notice
The notice, we can add that to it,
Okay.
cause we're still 48 hours out from that. So Nick can add an addendum to that notice if you all will pick a location, cause you just have to verify that you're out as a board and you're not gonna have ex parte
I mean,
communication.
don't you think we should take them to the
Burns House.
rooftop?
Does he not want to go back?
I don't know, I'm just
I
saying
mean,
if
I
you.
would hate to delay his
Yeah.
going back.
No,
if he
but I
just-
would hate to not have it noticed so that you couldn't do
Oh,
it. So we
okay.
might be able to sort of
Okay.
talk to him, but at least
Yeah.
you should have the option.
Right. I've met about it. Would you mind asking him if he would have time to hang around afterwards? and
Okay,
then-
I will.
And
But
then
you'll
whoever
need to
wants to
tell her
go
as soon as
will.
you can find out, Betsy, so.
But you
Okay.
need to know the location, don't you?
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
could just pick one that you would like
Where
to
do you
take him
wanna
to.
Well, I'm just thinking if wouldn't he want to see the Summers building? We're so
That'd be a
proud
good
of
place
it.
to go.
Yeah,
Okay,
You wanna do that?
we'll amend that notice
and
tomorrow.
just give them a heads up maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. And if we don't go, we don't go, but at least we saw them, we approached it.
Okay.
And, okay, and so you're gonna get back to us on some suggested language for the lighting.
Yeah,
If, so, do we want to address the courthouse issue? And if so, do we want to give some guidance about?
Have you had people talk to you about it?
Yes,
I have
yeah,
too,
yeah.
plenty. Yeah, so I feel like I'd like to have an answer. If someone says something to me, I can either direct them to someone else or say, come to our next meeting and speak your piece.
Isn't that like the neon signs that we have said we don't control on
Well,
the
we've said-
inside the
we-
building?
We've
Inside
said
the
that, but
building.
I mean, is there some reason that we can't
Is there some
control it? It's
reason there's
visible to the
rubber?
public. It's-
I mean, I don't know.
so originally I was told that those were
For the
gonna.
Ukraine?
That's what I heard.
Now they're pink or something.
Yeah, so I mean, I could get our code compliance, guy to just go have a conversation with
Okay.
them and ask them,
Okay.
what their intentions are, and do they wanna keep them, and if so, then they would need to come here. Because
Okay.
it is visible from the public right away.
Yes.
Well, it
So-
also is, it's also,
It's
another
distracting.
point is, it's a prominent feature of a prominent building
Correct.
in the historic district,
Yeah.
and it's very visible, what it looks like.
It's visible coming down Main Street.
Yeah.
But so where we're gonna get in, what we've gotta be careful about is we have lighting on the courthouse cupola, we have lighting on the Summers building. It sounds like we're gonna allow one and not the other, so we've got to,
Well, maybe we
We've
wanna
got the
use the word
distinction.
neon.
we've got to, I mean,
Yeah.
before we contact anybody, maybe we better figure out what our guidelines are.
Well, maybe Miami could
That's
just
probably-
ask a question.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
we'll just,
Say,
we'll just
are those
ask,
temporary,
yeah.
or are they?
That's
Yeah.
probably, just to be picky, it's probably not neon.
Okay, I don't know what
It's probably
that's.
LED because you can change.
What's one of those ropes, it looks
Yeah,
like to me,
yeah,
yeah.
that wouldn't be neon.
Yeah, I don't know what
It's
word.
problematic because it's so bright and it's such a color and it's poorly done. We're hanging in all kinds of,
On one side, they're just hanging down like this.
right. Okay, so the next is what, temporary signs?
Yeah, so we have struggled with this a little bit. Now, we only have one meeting a month, although I beg to differ this year. I think we've had 17 meetings in 12, in 11 months.
19.
It's
19
19, I read it back in here,
19
yeah.
meetings. So we've had a few extra meetings. But basically, whenever there's like a coming soon, sandwich board, any kind of sales specials, or we had the 250-year event signs that came up. Really, honestly, none of those are allowed. Like the current codes, you cannot have a temporary sign in the old and historic district. We brought the 250-year-old one to you as sort of a path forward because, we thought, well, they're semi-temporary, but they're kind of a longer term. And so I guess what we're asking you all is, would you like us to bring language that allows us to do like an administrative permit so that Gabe and I, if somebody's got, like Peddling Jacks, if they want to have their coming soon sign, we sent our code compliance guy out there and said, signs need to come down.
Yeah.
And is there a way for us to sort of be business friendly and, allow like a
Well, even
coming
the
soon?
parade sign.
The parade sign, allow some of these
Yeah.
some of these signs in the historic district, they could either, without your approval, but maybe with language that would have certain sizes and time periods and all of that, so.
So let me ask you,
Yeah.
I think you're right that we need to figure out what we're gonna do on that, but like, you're saying that they're prohibited, but this is probably something that needs to be addressed because if you look at the subdivision ordinance,
Mhm.
under 8-4-1A, certificate of appropriateness, except as provided below, no building or structure within the old or historic district may be demolished or moved in whole or in part, nor may any architectural features of said building or structure which are subject to public view from any public street, right-of-way, or place be altered in any way that affects the external appearance of the building or structure, including such items as roofs, chimneys, fences, and color changes without prior approval or application to the Board of Architects review. So
So
where are you finding that temporary
Sure.
signs are prohibited in the historic district?
So, under the sign code, which I don't know if you could go to our zoning code or not.
This
under
is
the s-
townwide?
Townwide.
Okay.
Under the sign code, so in your zoning ordinance where you found that same information, there's just one basic line about signage must be approved by the HPRB. There isn't, in all the other districts, we have, signs of a certain size, we
Right.
have temporary signs, we have all these sort of administrative ways in which signs can be approved. But in the OH district, all signage basically has to come to you.
And it doesn't make any
And-
distinction.
Correct.
It says
Yeah,
Are you able to zoom in at all?
can't read that.
Yeah, I know.
signs,
Maybe you can just read it out loud to
Yeah,
us, Gabe,
yeah.
if you would.
Signs within the the OH district shall be subject to the Town of Abington Design Review Guidelines for the old and historic district as amended, and require certificate of appropriateness by the Board of Architectural Review Board. The board may approve the attachment or suspension of a sign from an existing freestanding or projecting sign, or in the case of building on a site with more than one street frontage or more than one principal entrance, one additional freestanding or projecting sign per additional street frontage on principal entrance. So yeah, it's just, no matter what
really-
kind of signage it
yeah.
is, they'll have to come to you.
Okay.
so, so I guess I interrupt this, just go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what we'd like is, if somebody's gonna put a coming soon sign up for a month, that they don't have to wait a month and have you all approve it. if we could have some guidelines around it, knowing that it's not gonna be a permanent sign, obviously their permanent sign needs to still come to you.
Mhm.
Would there be any leeway for staff to do an administrative?
Have we ever approved that big giant parade sign?
No.
Okay.
That sign has been there for like 30 years, is what I've been told, so I've just
It's-
slightly
What sign is
overlooked
that?
it.
It's the on the corner of Cummings and Main Street. It's that big one that says the parade. And I'm not objecting to the sign. I'm just saying it went up. I don't know how long it's planned. Maybe it'll come down Monday.
Plum Alley Days is the same spot.
Yeah.
That location has had several signs. I've kind of looked at it as community events and not.
So are we thinking we're gonna make people come to the staff to get permission to put up a for rent sign on a office space?
No,
or a-
for rent and for sale signs are never, we've never gone through any kind of
It's just
monitoring
more
for that.
advertising
It's the advertising type, because basically right now I have to say, sorry, you can't have that and take it down, which seems to be, in my mind, it's a bit burdensome to a new business owner or, somebody that's trying to
Yeah.
get going, so.
Well, are we thinking that we would allow temporary signs without approval if they're only there for a certain amount of time?
Correct.
It's
So-
temporary.
So
Mhm.
if it's there for a month or 2 months or
Mhm.
whatever we decide, then they
Correct.
wouldn't have to do anything.
Correct. We'd sort of just
But if you
monitor it
wanna-
time-wise, but.
Yeah, go past 14 days or something, then we would need to have.
Well, if you're
Then they
renting a
could catch
place,
a
it could
meeting.
be.
If it's more than a month, then they're gonna be able to come to one of our
Correct.
meetings and ask for an extension or something.
So are you thinking you all will propose something for us, or you wanting us,
Mhm.
do you want some feedback from us right now, or?
Well, we can propose something. I just wanted to know whether or not you had any interest in allowing it to be more administrative and not every temporary sign coming to you. If you are willing to have that, then we'll propose language.
I'm very willing to do that.
Okay.
I'm willing to do that, I just don't want you all to, well, I don't want the public to have to come in for things that are just truly temporary and they
Mhm.
shouldn't have to do that.
Right, so right now, they have to come all the way to you for a truly temporary
for our
thing.
meeting.
And wait for your meeting. So at the moment, they don't have any leeway, in the Old and Historic District. All the other districts do have temporary signage allowed, but yours, the Old and Historic
What's
does
the
not.
temporary allowed language there?
So it's 30 days, our new code that's just getting adopted, it's 30 days, and each district has a little bit of a certain square footage, like 32 square feet is our average temporary sign, for no more than 30 days.
32 square inch? 32
Square feet.
Square feet.
Yeah.
32 square feet?
Yeah, I mean,
Wow,
it's,
big.
again, it's meant more for commercial, so.
Sheet of plywood.
Mhm. So you all might wanna pick a smaller size, but,
Big.
but yeah, that's kind of, that's the average. And again, we'd bring language so you could decide what size you wanted, but.
I think I think we need to really address it because there's gonna be certain business owners that are gonna take advantage of that temporary sign and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden they're permanent.
Yeah. So
Well,
I,
if you're renting a space or if you're, and I guess campaign signs with that?
they're also not, they're not regulated.
They do have to come down though.
They have to come
Yeah.
down, but the state does not allow us to put regulations other than, like,
Well, I'm not talking about the content.
Mhm.
I mean, you're saying that right now, every sign has to be approved by us.
That is correct, except campaign signs get a pass, so you're not allowed to, I know this is really sort of a weird particular, but the Berkeley group educated me. If you have to read the content of a sign to determine what type of sign it is, then essentially you're regulating signage. So I can't put into our code language about, political signs, because that's saying that I'm looking at a sign and determining whether or not it's
By reading it.
by reading it. So they said that just to continue to fall under the basic sort of state rule that allows signs to be up, in VDOT right-of-ways, et cetera, throughout campaign season. So we were advised not to add language
Well,
about
I'm
that.
thinking, I mean, a sign is not, a temporary sign by definition is not a permanent change to the historic district. It doesn't affect any architectural feature, it doesn't. So I'm thinking we should err on allowing not need to get approval if it's going to be more like 2 months as opposed to something like 14 days or 30 days?
Right,
because-
I just would like some parameters.
Right. So, and that would probably cover political signs too,
Mhm.
because I would think 2 months would be.
Mhm.
And so what you're saying is that,
What's a campaign season though? I mean, that varies and.
well, it should, what my understanding is, that even
Informally.
if, no matter what the time
Yeah,
limit, we can't.
It's not
But
up to
yes,
us.
so, and you're saying that like advertising signs though would not fall under this 2 month?
Right, so I don't know if you haven't, let's just say Peddling Jacks had a 2-for-1 special on men's ties, and they wanted to put a small sign out there that did an advertisement of some sort. You know, right now, we would say absolutely not. You can't have, there's no temporary signage that's allowed of any sort. So I think, you know, the question to me, and again, it's this whole idea of if you have to read it, does it become, you know, where is that temporary signage? So you honestly have to go down a path that says, do you want to allow temporary signage? If you do, if you want to allow it for 30 days or 60 days, and then you pick a square, you know, square footage, all of those types of signs essentially fall into that same category.
Well, then that gives you some authority to
Take them down.
take them down.
Yeah.
Without having a meeting with us.
Yes.
So like, what about these, like little signs that are just like sandwich board signs that say now open?
Same thing. We really don't have any ability for a sandwich board sign to be up, and so
But I mean, right now, we're not doing, we're allowing that, we're not.
I'm not
permitting-
We're
taking.
ignoring it.
We're
Yeah,
ignoring it,
okay.
yes.
So, I guess the question is,
I mean,
do
there's a
we
few-
want to make people have to get a certificate of appropriateness for those signs? And it sounds like I mean, a sign that you just put out now and then and take up when you're not open, we'd have to deal with that also.
So we have those, we consider those minor signs, so, anything that's like a sandwich board sign in other districts is considered a minor sign. And so you would end up with a bit of a code that would have like minor signs are allowed, and those would be defined as signs that are put out and taken in on a nightly basis. You'd end up with like a temporary sign that is, you know, defined as for no longer than 30 or 60 days, whatever you decide, with a specific square footage. And those signs would cover, you know, an event, a sale, or a coming soon.
And then you would have the ones, I think the ones that are totally separate from that are for rent or for sale
Yes.
of the
And we
property.
would, yeah, we would.
So it sounds like what we're saying is, a minor sign, which is one you take out and put up, that you wouldn't have to have a permit for that. And signs that are only gonna be up for 2 months or less, that are like for rent and are not retail, you wouldn't have to get a
Mhm.
permit for that. But if it's if it's like a sign that's not permanently fixed to a building, but something you put out in front of your business, it stays there 24/7, and it's an advertising sign of some type, then you would have to get approval for that.
Yeah, but I think we're drilling down into some categories that make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess I do have a question about the sandwich board signs, because I know a lot of businesses do have those, and, you know, is that a workaround for only having one sign per business, that people doing that? Because we've been thinking about that, or do you feel that those are okay? Because, you know, they do block the sidewalk. I don't know if there's any kind of.
There has been some sort of ruling about that in the past. Do you have something current on that?
So what we do have currently is that they have to, we changed the code at the higher level about sidewalk usage, which is sort of a different
Yeah.
part, but that's more of a town issue. So you do have to have at least 4 feet. So,
Okay.
for example, I think we all saw it at Halloween, the Halloween walkthrough, when the streets were actually full of people and you could barely get past like White Birch because, well, there's probably like 1.5 feet instead of 4 feet. So I do have my code compliance employee. He actually started this yesterday. He's gonna start enforcing the sidewalk rules,
The
so.
sprawl.
So as long as you're still 4.5 feet, you're okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
then we don't have to worry about it. All
Okay.
right, well, I think we have enough to go on with this.
I think so, too.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, well, we'll bring back some language then for you.
Okay.
We don't address street furniture, do we, on sidewalks?
From what standpoint?
Well, the table and chairs can be more of a barricade than a sandwich board or a sign.
Oh, yes, all blockage. So before, the way the town code read, about 6 months ago, before I took in a change, was nothing could be on the sidewalks. And so I took in a change that says as long as you have 4.5 feet of.
Good. Welcome to our meeting. Did you just happen to come in and?
I just wanted to see, I'm from Princeton, New Jersey, and I wanted to see how, I lived here the last 3 years, and I wanted to see how our town looks, my town.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
I'm
But-
an error on conservatism. You can always push the envelope.
Well-
Good
Give
input.
away your power. It's odd.
All right.
Thanks
Good to
for
see
My
you.
name is
Thank you.
safe. Yes.
So yeah, we'll bring you back some
Okay.
language. But yeah, I mean.
So you're talking
now-
about, that there
there
should be
is-
that much clear space on the sidewalk?
Yeah, and that's a
What if-
motion thing too, I would think, to get a wheelchair.
It's an
fit in
ADA,
there.
yeah, compliance thing, so we
Or an
need at least,
ADA,
I think
yeah.
it's 4.5, I have to look at it again, but, yeah, so all the way down the sidewalk, so, in front of the coffee shop, in front of White Birch, those feel like places where it feels like they always stretch the cords a little further. Other places though, like if you wanted to pull out something and sell on the side of the sidewalk, you also need to have space, so.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
I think it's important, I mean, I think we're doing that to, you know, balance the interest of the historic district, but also, you know, to be business friendly because.
Right.
And I know that
Yeah.
the town council is concerned about that also, so, I mean.
Yeah, and we want people out on the side.
Oh, we do,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that's a super point, and I
Yeah.
think that's something that we, all of us as a community, the town council, and I'm sure all the other commissions, but certainly this one, want to make sure that this is a good place to visit, a good place to live, and a good place to have a business,
Right.
all that.
Right. Okay, next is, are we ready to move to the next topic? The DHR annual report questions.
Yes, so I got this from Aubrey maybe a couple weeks ago, and so I've been filling it out, and like Mariana and me discussed, you guys have had 19 meetings in this past annual year, so it's very impressive, and you've reviewed 59 applications. And so there was some questions in the number 10, and so I figured I'd bring them in front of you guys and see what you guys thought, and some answers, and I can add those into the annual report and
Okay.
for them. So the first one is, what are the most critical preservation planning issues? So, and just to kind of get some ideas from you all.
That means in this particular district.
Yeah, just for Abington.
I would say exactly what I just said, I'd say it again. To protect our historic resources
Mm-hmm.
and to ensure that the historic district is a good place to live, to have a business, and to visit.
Right.
To protect our historic resources within the context of that.
I think it always has to be that.
Yes, I do too.
I mean, I think that's the most important thing we do. Definitely.
But I'm sure other people have other opinions, I just said.
No, I think that says it, I like that.
Okay. What is the single accomplishment of your local government this year that has done the most to further preservation in your community?
I'd like to think our Preservation Day,
That was good, and I also think that our working with the town to get the Summers Building
Me too.
done
Yeah.
was a
Me too.
huge
Yes.
milestone.
The
Me too.
courthouse was another big one.
The courthouse just hasn't hadn't come to
Right.
fruition
That
for
might
us,
be next
for us
year's
to
is
say
Right.
hooray.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
the Summers Building certainly is something to celebrate the
Right.
process.
Okay.
And that tied in with our Historic Preservation Day because we
Yes.
ended up there.
Yeah.
So we did have that was a big event.
Okay. The third one is, what recognition are you providing for successful preservation projects or program?
You know, we don't do that, and we really need to do that. I mean, I think that's something we should really focus on
Mhm.
is, you know, for these projects that, where we have to demand so much on people, but then they do it and do it well, we need
Yeah.
to have some award or recognition for those projects, and we don't do that at all.
I mean, I feel like Vicki Wampler, as many times as she came in here, what a good job she did with that house and her beautiful garden. I mean,
Yeah.
we should have thanked her for following our God. You know,
Maybe we
she
should
was
just be
very
honest that
thorough.
we don't do that, and but we're planning to implement.
Yeah, and I can put that
Yeah,
in everything.
so it's a goal.
Yeah, there's definitely some things I've added
Okay.
in here that we're like
Okay.
on the way of doing.
you know, Bristol, both sides in Bristol have preservation awards,
They do.
and they don't have historic districts in the downtown, but they still have.
Or do they give a plaque or something?
Hmm?
What do they do? What is their award? They just a notice or a plaque or a certificate?
I think they have recognition in the paper.
Yeah, there's a awards, a presentation ceremony, at least on the Virginia side, I know.
We don't want to give them plaques, so we'll have more plaques all over there.
Argue about the wording.
Are we ready to move on to the next one? Okay. How did you meet or not meet the goals identified in your annual report for last year? So I wasn't really here for last year.
What
so
were our goals?
We didn't have a report last
Oh,
year.
we did.
This is
Yeah.
the
We
first time.
exceeded them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sounds good, okay.
Yeah.
That's another thing I was gonna ask because I asked my aunt and I wasn't sure if
I don't
I've
think
never
Jason
seen
maybe
one of
brought
those.
one from
I
you.
know.
It has never
Okay.
come
Yep.
for us
We
for comment.
exceeded every one of them.
Yeah.
There you go. I like that answer. Okay. What are your local preservation goals for 2023? So I guess this may be a jumping off point that you were talking about making a checklist. So
Or
this
guideline
might be-
revision, or start working on the guideline revision.
And our revised preservation plan.
Yeah, preservation.
Right.
Okay.
Do you all think you're gonna want another preservation day? Because I hear a lot of people ask me, "Are you gonna do it again?" And I mean, it may not be the
Really?
same.
Did
Yeah.
they like it?
Yeah.
I mean, you got good feedback.
Yes.
Good. I mean, because we didn't really follow up with it. in the
No,
end.
but I mean, people seem to enjoy it. So.
Well, I think it was wonderful.
I thought
Yeah, I
it was
think we
great.
should do it
Okay.
again.
I definitely think we should
Okay.
do it.
Okay.
If
And
you
we-
think you can
we
stand
get
it.
that- Is that grant renewable or?
Well, we also might, with this, we might be going after some CLG.
Well, I was gonna say, the
dollars as well.
CLG money is
Yeah.
out there for us to use.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to use it for.
Yeah, and we're gonna try to use it, maybe you should add this too, Gabe. We are gonna try to get a new roof on the cabin over in Sinking Springs as a more physical project versus a planning project.
What now?
The cabin at Sinking Spring Cemetery.
Oh,
Yeah.
Cummings Cabin.
Mm-hmm.
So under that, you could also put that, I mean, if DHR can assist us with this, this outdoor lighting issue, that'd be great. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
prime example of where we could use some guidance.
Some guidance.
Under F,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, also with this outdoor lighting, I think gathering some, seeing what Alexandria has, for
Right.
instance, and, I mean, you said, no, that was signage that you looked at, wasn't it?
No,
it
he
was
looked at
That was
lighting.
lighting, yeah, to look at some other places.
And with
I
the
saw
dark
one.
light
I
issues.
saw
and-
one place that was
Don't forget.
specifying the Kelvin temperature of the light.
Wow.
That it,
What is that?
That's
whether
warm
it's
versus cool.
warm yellowish lights or harsh, bright,
Oh.
green, white
Uh-huh.
lights.
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I went to Alexandria for the housing conference a few weeks ago, I mean, we walked around downtown at night and it felt so fun, welcoming.
Yeah.
It was lit. You felt super safe, and
Oh,
that's in
okay.
their old town
Uh-huh.
portion.
This kind of lighting is ubiquitous. I mean, every town, whether it's
Yeah.
a historic district or not, you see this.
Even
So
in
we
Charlotte,
could
there's a
strive
section.
just to do it well to suit ourselves,
Right.
and we could use Alexandria as a model,
Mhm.
if you found it to be really nice.
I did.
It's
Well,
one
I
of the
think we
two
need to go
oldest
check it
districts
out.
in Virginia.
I know.
Just take your word for it.
Alexandria and
And
Abingdon, right?
Abingdon, that's true, that's true. Two of the oldest districts in Virginia, Alexandria and Abingdon. There you go.
Okay, so I guess we kind of already answered F. Is there any other ones that you would like future advice from the DHR on? Any kind of other subjects? Besides the outdoor lighting?
We had talked more. You all had talked about tax credit. I think wanting them to come back and talk about that, or can't remember.
Yes.
There were some other
Well,
topics.
tax credits is one of the main things we want them to talk about,
Mhm.
is the issue of tax
And
credits.
we want people aware of those. I don't
To
think.
be aware of them and
Yeah.
understand them, right, how it works, when the tax credit is available at the state level, but it's not here at the local level, but it is at the local level and not then.
I thought we also discussed having, a list of master historic tradespeople. or
Yeah, that's a
something.
good one. Let's add that to the list. And Gabe has been working on a letter. Last year you all mentioned that we wanted to send out a letter January of each year that just said, welcome, you're in the historic district, and give them a link to the website and say,
Yeah.
that way people could kind of stop. We hear a lot, hey, I didn't know, I didn't
know.
know, I didn't know.
I
And
think
so,
that's a super idea.
okay, so our annual letter will go out in February maybe.
Yeah, I've got it already drafted in a sense, and we'll be
Mhm.
going in December's packet, so you guys
okay.
can look over it.
Okay.
And there's not really no motion for it, but
Uh-huh.
if you guys wanna look over, review it, give me
Okay.
any
Oh, that
comments
would be
back
lovely.
of what you think should be
Okay.
added, altered,
Okay.
more than welcome to it,
That
and we
would be
can get
very
that
good.
sent out.
I think that's lovely.
All right.
Okay. And G, I guess we
Yeah.
already kinda touched on it with the tax credits training, but is there any other training, workshops, online, technical assistance?
Well, before we go there, could I just back up 1 second to just tag onto that letter? You know, what Byram reads every time, it's, you know, it says it right there. In fact, I wrote that a long time ago. It said we try to be a bridge of support
Yeah.
between the ordinance and the property owner, and I think that should be in the letter.
So enough people
I
see
think,
it.
I think it should be everywhere. that
They
that's
shouldn't
what we-
hear it for the first time,
Right,
understanding
that's
in
what
front
we
of us.
are. We do
Yeah.
try that very much.
We'll put that quote in there.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Was that the?
Oh, no, you're fine.
Is there anything more you need?
No, that's pretty much it. I just figured I'd bring any questions to you, get some
What is
ideas.
this, excuse me, what's this blue thing here?
Oh, that was just your emails and that stuff and everything, so I just blocked that out this way.
Okay.
Nobody's email.
What about this number 1?
Where are we looking? What?
Underneath that.
Number 1
box.
under that, where the blue thing is.
If you do not have 2 qualified professionals on your commission, explain why.
I mean, how do they
We do.
define?
We have an attorney
Mm.
and director of a museum and an architect, so,
Okay, so not just architect.
yeah.
And a speech therapist and an eye doctor.
And an eye doctor, a speech therapist.
I think our eye doctor has abandoned us.
They're all qualified
They're all
professionals.
professional.
Definitely is.
He's flying over it.
Sorry,
So I guess one other thing
No,
that
no,
I've
it's yours
been
to-
kind of
yeah,
struggling with
no, I've been
too,
taking notes over here.
I wanted to throw out there and see what you all, you know, this, you know, I read the part of the zoning that says what we do, and then of course the signs are covered somewhere else. But, you know, right now we don't have any input in, tree removal. And I guess there's not a reason why we don't, I mean, I guess we could if we thought that was important to the historic district.
So what I was told from Kevin Sigmund when we were doing the zoning ordinance update was that Dillon's rule doesn't allow us to preserve trees. So we are not allowed to say, other places I have lived and worked, you would say no more than 50% of the trees can be removed from this property. If you wish to remove more than 50%, you have to come through a special use permit. And so I ended up with a McDonald's once that only had 2 trees and they wanted to take them down. And so I got this whole bioswale out of them and this whole beautiful new tree planting because they had to come forward and provide an alternate plan for their trees. But what I've been told is in Virginia, we're not allowed to actually regulate tree removal.
Like within a property owner's property.
What about on the public right of way?
On the public right-of-way, yes, and there's a whole tree board, there's a whole tree commission that deals with public
For the
right-of-way trees.
entire town?
Mhm. So, if
So
one
we
of you
could,
wanted
we
to.
could regulate that in the historic district.
You could. Probably would need to go through a balance between the 2 of you, much like how our entrance corridor overlaps with the historic district, so.
I don't know, I mean, we'll have to think about that, I guess, and talk about it, but.
Are there any specific removals that you're thinking about that?
No, just over the years, there have
Yeah,
been
we've
some that
lost
I
a lot of
thought-
trees.
That I thought, yeah, and there seems like there's a lot that have gone. I don't know, at first I was bothered by the 3 big sycamores that went in the Summers building, but now I could kind of see that maybe it's better that they're gone, I don't know, it's a.
Well, I think that something like that's really hard. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, they were intruding, their roots were
Right.
intruding upon the structure of the buildings, but I agree. I mean, that was a huge loss.
Did the tree at the visitor center, did it die? The big tree?
Was fully dead on the inside.
Wow.
Are they
And
Because it
replacing
was,
or-
yeah.
they'll replace, I mean, like, I feel sad, but it's hard to replace, you know.
Right, but I mean, right now, there's
Yeah.
a big ugly stump.
There's a process, they're gonna grind that stump out and then replace with some alternate trees. but-
And then there was a big
Well-
tree between the Gather Inn and that little cottage there that came
Yeah,
down.
That came
just,
down.
just lately.
In the right of way?
It might have, I don't know if it was right at
A
the
lot of these
sidewalk,
trees, I
but-
think, are the same vintage year, and they're big, and their roots are up, upending the sidewalk, is the only thing I can figure, which I don't know. I love the trees, so I hate to see any of them.
Yeah, I've noticed over
Any
the
of them go.
30 years that I've lived in Abington that we've lost a significant amount of trees.
We seem to be doing it now a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a diseased tree and it's dying, then it clearly needs to go, but if it's other issues, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we regulate the size of a sign and the shape of a gutter and such, and trees are a huge part of the historic district, but maybe it's something we shouldn't get into. I mean, I don't know.
I mean,
I'm
if we
just
have a
wondering.
tree commission, it's probably none of our business, maybe, I don't know.
What if I ask Kevin to come chat with you guys?
Yeah.
Then you could hear and see how that tree commission
Express our
works,
concerns.
and, I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't be interested in bringing you the trees that are coming down in the historic district, that are in the right of way.
Before you do that, why don't you let us just have a time to think about it a little
Okay.
bit? Because I think if, there's no point in stirring that up if we don't feel
Okay.
like that's something we should get involved in.
Okay.
I mean, the roots create a safety hazard in a lot of areas, having fallen on the sidewalk more than once.
Yes, I'm sure
I can vouch
that's
for
an
that.
issue, as well as sometimes the trees, those older trees Kevin Sigmund has explained this to me before, they are, they're at a point that they're leaning in some direction, and they really are in a dangerous thing of falling over. The one that fell over right down here and
Mhm.
killed him.
Right.
Right in front of the Methodist parsonage about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there are issues that, we just don't even know about. I will say this about the Fields Pin tree, it was as pretty as I've ever seen it on its last yellowing.
Aw.
I know.
Yeah, I hated to see that one go,
I
but
did
I
too.
guess.
Boy, I did too.
And I think the town did everything it could to try to save that.
Oh, for years, the
Yeah.
town has been
Mhm.
feeding that and putting medicine in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
roping it off.
Well, it went out with a bang, 'cause it was as pretty as I ever saw it the last time it turned yellow.
I mean, there's some trees I'm almost afraid to walk under. Most of them are private property, like the one in front of Ann Hutton's.
Oh, yes.
That house,
Wow.
which looks like the one from Harry Potter movie.
Yes.
I expect it to
Scary.
start
That house is getting worse.
grabbing.
That-
But it's wonderful, it's a
Fire
beautiful,
discussion.
it's an object, but it's scary looking.
All right.
Well, I have one more question, and I
Yes.
don't know if this is appropriate or not, but I noticed when they, and this isn't historic, I think it goes more with the town, so maybe you can answer it, but when they put all the wreaths and the lights on the light posts, half of them don't work. Some of them just have a wreath and not a string of lights. If you drive down Main Street, it's very,
I can find out why, I can send you
Okay,
an
I didn't know
email.
if they maybe didn't have
Um,
lights that worked and they were gonna get them
I'm
ready.
not sure,
It looks,
or-
it looks, it's obvious,
Okay,
yeah.
I'll find out.
All right. Is that
I'm going to have
everything?
dinner at the summer theater.
There you go.
Oh, well. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call?
Mr. Boyd,
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn,
Aye.
Mrs. White,
All right.
and Mr. Geisler.
Aye.
Good meeting.
Yeah.